Hi everybody, thank you for joining us again. My name's Estelle Gillingham, forensic healer here at the Healing Waters Retreat Centre and Sanctuary in Glastonbury, and I'm here to talk to Juliet Yelverton, the Sanctuary's founder, because Juliet has some very exciting training coming up which helps healers and practitioners in all kinds of therapy and healing work optimize their business and take it to a new level through an understanding of how to work with both their own trauma and the trauma of their clients. So Juliet, thank you very much for joining us again to talk about the training.
Well, thank you, Estelle. It's really wonderful to have this opportunity to share with you and to everyone else an understanding about trauma, because what I find is that people are really at a loss out there in the world, that many people are suffering from trauma. In fact, it's universal, and may feel that there's nothing wrong with them, and yet they have really disturbing symptoms.
Absolutely, and also in my experience, a lot of people blaming themselves and judging themselves because they can't function in the way that other people seem to, and not understanding what could be at the root of it.
That's right, giving themselves a really hard time and really suffering.
Yeah. So in your work with resolving trauma and getting to the root of what's really going on, as well as this deep understanding of the whole subject, I've noticed that you always begin a session by creating a very palpable sense of safety for people. Why do you go to all the trouble of doing that?
Well, if you imagine the person that is able best to take care of other people and make it all right is a mother for her children, and a mother has the qualities of really calming down a child and to really make it profoundly safe, and in that manner the child is able to grow up strong and healthy. So having said that, the foundation of healing trauma is creating a sense of safety. So all those skills that a mother would use in a really strongly grounded, profoundly safe, protected way, that those are the skills that a therapist needs to have in creating the safety for their clients. Not that the client has to in any way project being a mother, because that isn't a good idea, but it's the essence of those qualities. Because in trauma, what happens is that a person goes through the experience of being unsafe, so unsafe that they feel that they are going to die, or they may actually be about to die, and the nervous system kicks in, the reptilian brain kicks in with an immediate response to protect the organism, to protect the person or the animal. And that protective response keeps running up until a sense of safety is recreated in the body. And the sense of safety that you create in a therapy session is what's actually going to be the cornerstone for all the other healing that goes on. Because the body needs to have a feedback system back to the animal part of the brain to say, it's okay, you can switch off now, you don't have to do any more work to protect me, I am safe, I can feel it through my body, I'm safe now.
And that's another thing that I've noticed in your sessions. You take time to reconnect people to each of their senses. And is that something to do with the way the amygdala and the glands that fire up this whole fight and flight response need to be reset? Can that happen through the body's senses?
Yes, because the first stage of a traumatic experience is when the animal or the person goes on active alert. So that's through the senses. It's a smell or a sight or a sensation, and then that triggers the whole episode of what's about to happen, and the way that the nervous system will then generate the fight or flight response, or the ultimate, the parasympathetic shutdown. And it's through the senses that can then be switched off again. So it's creating a somatic feeling in the body through the senses that actually there's nothing threatening you here now. You can stop.
Yeah. And if that isn't achieved, then somebody might be in a state, somebody very capable, somebody with a lot of talents and gifts to offer the world. The trauma that they're holding in their body might be continually re-triggered. And
it's right, because the animal part of the brain isn't able to differentiate between reality and fantasy. So once it's set into motion, it will keep running. Anything that triggers a memory of the original experience will set off the activation again, and you can become highly activated. And even though intellectually you don't think there's anything going on, the physiology of the body is telling you that you're in incredible danger, and you're therefore getting the symptoms of being in incredible danger. High levels of anxiety, a huge amount of tension, enormous amount of fear or anger. You might be easily triggered into an angry attack on someone for the smallest thing, and it's not because you're just being nasty, it's because there's activation going on in your body back into the fight or flight response that you're not conscious of.
And even though we're unconscious of this, as you say, trauma being universal, it's very real, and therefore some of society's response to people who are struggling to function in the world as they think they ought to, and other people think they ought to, is to say, pull it together, get it together, sort yourself out.
Well, absolutely. Well, that is actually a secondary traumatisation, because a person traumatised can't pull themselves together. And animals, it's interesting because animals don't get traumatised usually. They're able to discharge the chemicals, the energy of the traumatic response, of the stress response, the fight or flight response. So if an animal is chased by a lion and then gets caught and then collapses, which is the ultimate stage of the nervous system in protecting the organism by withdrawing blood to the core of the animal, so it goes cold and numb. If the animal's just left lying there, after about half an hour it'll get up and it'll just start shaking, and it will discharge all that energy from the body. But human beings, they don't discharge the energy, so it's like having your foot on the accelerator and the brake of a car at the same time and coming to a halt, and there's all that, the accelerator is revving, and there's this like intensity, and in the human body there's this intensity of this frozen, trapped energy that's giving rise to all these symptoms. And it's precisely the thinking part of the brain that's saying, come on, pull yourself together, that's causing that to happen. Because it's interfering with your ability to just discharge. If we're able to just to shake and to cry and to let out the emotion and to let out the energy of the experience, we're a little bit closer to actually discharging the energy.
Or if we're given a palpable experience of being held and feeling safe.
Absolutely. So if you were with somebody that's really, really highly activated and highly traumatized, if you can just sit with them in a really calm way, but totally be there, totally present for them, totally checking what's going on without interfering or distracting their state by a lot of talking, then it can help them process the experience.
And would it be the case that if you hadn't resolved your own trauma, that could limit the amount that you can bring to a healing session to somebody that's in this highly sensitive, highly activated, traumatized sense? How does that play out?
Well, somebody who's very traumatized, they've got the active alert state switched on the whole time. So that means that all their senses are hypersensitive, that the smallest cues can alarm them. the smallest things that you might not notice, a smell or subliminal messages coming from the therapist can alarm them. So if a therapist hasn't truly mastered their own activation states and healed their own trauma, they can be putting on a front like this is all safe and I've got this under control and I can cope with this, but they're not really authentic and they're not really grounded in that. Therapists themselves may be getting activated even though they're not expressing it to the client. They may have a high level of adrenaline running, or they may be feeling totally overwhelmed and despondent, like, I can't cope with this person is going to kill themselves if I don't do something, and oh my god, this is terrifying.
Yeah, and the opposite would be true. So if you had resolved your energy, all of the energy that it takes to keep all of that under control or managed in some way could be liberated, and you could bring a lot of flowing energy to your sessions and not be putting your adrenal glands through a massive workout again, and exhausting and depleting yourself in trying to help other people.
Yes, absolutely. So the more you've resolved your own trauma, then the more you can really truly create a sense of safety for your clients, and your clients will heal more quickly because you're able to really support them coming into the reality that actually now they are safe, and you're less likely to exhaust yourself because you're not going through activation states yourself, and your sessions will be so much easier.
Yeah, and you could see a greater range of clients and have that deep feeling of safety while working with even very challenging people.
Absolutely, because you can sit with whatever's going on, sit with some understanding and some compassion, and not be activated into fear that I can't cope with this. You can see a much greater range of people because you know that you have the ability to be grounded and centered and not flustered and activated yourself.
And in my experience of your work, it's just not a little bit of compassion that you're bringing to it, it's a huge and very real sense and experience of compassion. And I'm very, very much looking forward to doing some more videos with you and you being able to share some of the ways in which you can help therapists create those feelings of safety for people. And I'm really, really looking forward to this training. So thank you so much for letting me talk to you about it.
Thank you very much, Estelle.
And thank you all for tuning in again. Bye.